Well, Finance Minister Nene has instituted an independent inquiry into the affairs of the PIC. The minister met with the board of the directors of the PIC today to deal with the governance issues at the state-owned fund manager.
So this is huge. The Public Investment Corporation dealing with the pension funds of all government employees. And there was a directive to the board to commission a proper forensic investigation into the claims against certain PIC executives. The terms of reference for that inquiry have not yet been announced.
Economists say given Eskom's low credit rating, South Africa did not have a choice but to request a loan for the power utility to keep afloat.
State-owned China Development Bank loaned Eskom a government-backed $2.5 billion. That's an equivalent of around 34 billion rand to complete Kusile Power Station in Mpumalanga. Transnet also loaned $300 million or 4 billion rand by the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China.
China announced its commitment to invest $14.7 billion in the country during President Xi Jinping's state visit at the Union Buildings in Pretoria yesterday. The loans to ailing state-owned entities were part of the 14 agreements signed between China and South Africa. Contingent liabilities posed by highly indebted state-owned enterprises have been flagged by rating agencies as the risk to the fiscus. But economists say Eskom is caught between a rock and a hard place. It's either it borrows or it goes under. Economist Azar Jamin says with Eskom's credit ratings at junk status, it's a good thing that it's able to get credit to keep it afloat.
I think the credit ratings agencies would recognize that, it's really a choice between two negative outcomes. On the one hand, by not gaining access to such credit lines, Eskom would run a risk of going under. On the other hand, by gaining access to these credit lines and having a contingency liability, the government sees its potential public debt to GDP ratio increasing, and that is clearly not necessarily favorable for credit ratings. But I think that they would see this in the light of what is really needed just to keep the lights on at Eskom.
But others believe the move is a raw deal for the consumer, as it may come back to bite them.
A time when actually our credit rating is not so strong, so the terms aren't going to be as favorable as they would have been much earlier in the years. But I think one of the key things that we have to watch, of course, is when they start now to calculate how much they're going to need to increase the tariffs by in order to be able to finance their debt and to continue to do all the other operations that they will still need to do going forward. And I think that's probably the main concern.
However, the fact that Eskom has taken steps to improve corporate governance and deal with corruption is a favorable factor. SABC News, Johannesburg.